Good morning, everyone. It's Friday morning, Erev Shabbos Kodesh, and today's Shir on Bitachon is a message of Bitachon from the Parshas Vayakhel. There's a very famous question that is asked on this week's Parsha and also goes on next week's Parsha Pekudei as well. And that is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rarely ever repeats himself. Certainly not many psukim, not many verses. That would be a waste of the holy ink of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And yet if you look at Parshas Vayakhel, it's almost word for word what we had several weeks ago when we began to describe in Parshas Teshuva all of the building and the construction of the Mishkan. And suddenly the Torah goes once again into great detail to explain piece by piece, inch by inch, vessel by vessel, how to build the Mishkan. So much so that Rashi, who was extremely elaborate in his explanations in Parshas Truma, when he was describing all the details of the construction and the building of the Mishkan, Rashi is almost silent on this week's Parsha. He has nothing to add or to say because it was said already before. So why does the Torah repeat itself again and again and again, verse for verse, word for word, message by message, command by command, what we already had previously? And the reason the Torah goes through another repetition of the Asiyas HaMishkan, of making the Mishkan, is because this is coming on the heels of the Chet HaEgel, on the sin of the golden calf. And after the sin of the golden calf, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings out his wrath against Klal Yisrael, there are numerous Yidden that fall by the wayside during the testing of those waters of who was in fact guilty for the Chet HaEgel. Moshe Rabbeinu smashes the luchais, the tablets, and he has to go back up onto the mountain when he's called by Hashem for another 40 days and another 40 nights of no eating and no drinking. Klal Yisrael is busy doing tshuva, Moshe Rabbeinu is doing tshuva, and eventually HaKadosh Baruch Hu rewards Moshe with a new set of luchais, a second set of the tablets. And one of the difficulties that Klal Yisrael has is the avodah, is the service of the Rebbeinu Shalom, is that closeness that they're going to share, which they were able to be enveloped in when they walked inside of the Mishkan, is that going to continue? Comes along the Torah and restates all of the commands, all of the details, all of the messages that there are inside of the construction and the building of the Mishkan, telling Klal Yisrael, you should know that although you did a chait, you did perhaps the gravest sin of all time, just 40 days after you heard Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God, you ended up making a golden calf and dancing around it and celebrating with it, which seems to be a blatant blasphemy of all of the Torah. And therefore you would imagine that since you've been taken off your high level of ruchnius, of spirituality, of an Adam Arishon before the Chet, the Jewish people, the Yetzer Hara, left them at that point, and they were on the highest of heights. And now with the Chet HaEgel, they were once again brought down to mortal human terms, where the Yetzer Hara was nichnas, went inside of them once again. And you might think, as we know that it says by Rabbi Daniel of Kelm, who was the last Rosh Yeshiva of the Kelm Yeshiva, if a person would be able to see the spiritual damage that their Avera caused in Shemayim in the heavens, they would never believe that they could do tshuva. If a person would see the destruction that was caused because of one word of Lashon Hara, one missing of a mitzvah of tefillin, one wild thought that came into a person's head while they're in the middle of davening Shmoneh Esrei, one licentious act of illicit relations, whether it is watching pornography on the screen, whether it is gawking and staring at a woman who's walking down the street, or Khalila, whether it's going even farther than that, if a person would realize the devastating effects in the heavens of the action that they have done, they would never ever believe that they could do tshuva. Because they would think it's impossible for the person who brought about destruction that he could also bring about the tikkun, the correction, through his own efforts of tshuva and becoming a better person. Klal Yisrael understood the grave effects, the consequences of the Chet HaEgel, how destructive it truly was. And it's impossible for a human being to believe that they could rectify the sin of the golden calf. Unless you're Boiteach b'Hashem, you're someone who trusts in the Ribbono Shalom. He's the Avarachaman, He's the Father of Heaven, the Father of Mercy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has so much compassion and love over Klal Yisrael. He's just waiting for a Yid to do Teshuva. He's waiting for a Yid to bring himself back to the Ribbono Shalom. He's waiting for a Yid to admit that he made a mistake and say, I'm sorry, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, take me home, bring me back close to you. A person that is Boiteach b'Hashem, on that madrega, on that level, then he certainly believes that his tshuva is going to be a tshuva that will be accepted by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu can reinstate the person's position and his situation in life back to where it was before, if not even higher than it once upon a time was. Klal Yisrael were Boiteach b'Hashem. They trusted in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, although they made such a grave error by doing the Chet HaEgel, dancing around a calf which was akin to Avodah Zarah, to idol worship. And they destroyed the heavens, they destroyed the spiritual world, they destroyed their levels of Kedusha. Nevertheless, they trusted in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Hashem is the Avarachaman. He's waiting for a Yid to do Teshuva, and He will bring us back. And Klal Yisrael, in fact, with all of their amun and their bitachon, they were able to rectify the Chet HaEgel, to remove the dark cloud that was hovering over them. And Hashem said, so much am I accepting your tshuva, so much am I bringing you back. Let's get back into the Mishkan once again. Let's go through all the details, the building, the construction, all of the minutiae that is there, so that you should know, just as the Mishkan existed before the Chet HaEgel, and it is the makom, it is the place in the world where the Shekhinah will come and rest, and you'll be able to engage in a life of Shekhinah and Kedusha. So too with your bitachon, that you trusted that your tshuva is going to work and trigger in Shemaim tremendous amounts of rachamim and mercy. Let's rebuild the Mishkan. I'll give you all the details once again, word for word, letter for letter, piece by piece, that you should know that the Mishkan, which is V'shachanti b'seichem, where the Shekhinah will dwell, He once again will dwell amongst you. Imagine a person's levels of bitachon. If we could only trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the right way, no matter what we do, even when it's the wrong thing, there's always a way to turn around and come back to Hashem. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will embrace us. He will love us. He will shower us with His compassion, and in that way bring us close. And in the schus of our bitachon, we will always have the opportunity to be close to Hashem. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.